Hi everyone, Miss Moxley here. So for today, you guys have on the agenda human population lesson and quiz. Tuesday, you have the structure of the earth lesson and quiz. Wednesday, you have rocks and minerals lesson and quiz. Thursday, you'll have your scrimmage. For your scrimmage, it's going to be the same setup as before. It's going to consist of 4 multiple choice questions and 2 extended response. 2 of the multiple choice questions will be review. 2 of the multiple choice questions will be from the new content that we've covered the past 2 weeks since your last scrimmage. And then your 2 extended response questions will be from the new content that we've covered the past 2 weeks since your last scrimmage. Please be sure on the extended response questions that you guys are giving it your best effort. It's better to receive some points instead of no points as far as your score is concerned. So put something, please don't put IDK, please don't leave it blank, please give it your best shot. And then for Friday, you guys have the geologic history lesson and the geologic history quiz. So after this point, the geologic history lesson and quiz, we are going to have an exam for this module. We're going to cut this module in half so that you guys can pick back up come semester 2. After the holidays, you'll pick back up after this exam point in this module. That way you guys won't be testing with an exam that's covering material before the holidays. So I don't want you guys forgetting the material over the holidays or being concerned with having to go back and review that material when you'll be in a new course shell. So you'll still have access to the content, you just won't be tested over it. If that makes sense to you guys, I hope that does make sense. All right, so for today, I want to go over 2 modules with you guys, and I know this looks funny. This is from the teacher's end, but I want to go over brief history of humanity. You guys were to have completed that Friday, and then I want to talk about human population as well. So looking at brief history of humanity, I just want to point out the objectives. So you should describe a brief history of humanity and then be able to connect advancements in technology and agriculture to increases in human population. So by the end of the lesson, you should be able to do at the minimum these 2 things on your own without having to look at your notes. So you should be able to summarize in your own words these 2 items as far as the objectives are concerned. Your keywords, so your vocabulary terms, be sure that you have these written in your notes. Human population, communication, agriculture, metallurgy, fossil fuels, and then electrical power. Now, of course, you guys know that when you go through the lessons, if there's any other bolded terms, add those to your vocabulary terms as well. Give a definition or a description, and then if you can give an example, be sure to provide that example as well. So let me pull up the conference page. I thought I already had that pulled up. Let me pull up the conference page and we'll go ahead and get started. I apologize, I thought I already had this pulled up. And we'll start on our notes. Alright, so it's coming. Give it just a moment. I apologize. Again, I thought I already had this pulled up. Alright. So here we go. Let's go ahead and discuss those 2 lessons. And let's talk about some notes. So brief history of humanity. That one was first. Oops. All right, when we're talking about humanity, we're talking about specific events in the time that humans have been around that have allowed humans to evolve, adapt, and change, and that has allowed our population to grow. So early humans, the first humans, of course, one of the first inventions that humans had or discovered was fire. And from this point, humans, of course, were able to make some simple tools, but we were mostly hunters and gatherers. Okay, now with these simple tools, of course, it enhanced our hunting ability, but we also were able to later cultivate. So still using simple tools, but as far as cultivate, we're talking about agriculture. We're talking about farming. So actually obtaining seeds and purposefully planting them and adapting or changing that environment to better suit our needs as humans. So we've begun to cultivate or to agriculture farm, and this was about 12,000 years ago. All right. So you want to be sure that you associate this time frame with this event. Cultivate, agriculture, farming, 12,000 years ago. From this point, as our population begins to continue to increase in numbers, humans begin to produce more advanced tools. So we had simple tools as far as our hunters and our gatherers are concerned, but we're producing more advanced tools, and we're using a process called metallurgy, one of your vocabulary terms that we talked about. And with metallurgy, what we're doing is we're taking metals, or we're creating metals from minerals. So we're taking these minerals, we're using fire, we're using that heat, and we're crafting these metal tools. So before, our simple tools were made out of bone, they were made out of wood, they were made out of rock. We did not have access to metals prior to this point in our history. As we continue to advance with our tools, we go to things like firearms, and this is much later, of course, in terms of our advancements, but think of primitive weapons, so think of things like axes, and then think of things like firearms, so an advancement from a simple axe or machete to a firearm. Okay, so we've made great gains with metallurgy. Now, as the human population continues to grow, we've had these advancements in tools. At this point, humans have only been able to use or obtain power from wind and water. So at this point, there's no way of really storing power or allowing it to travel far distances. We also, at this point, when we used wind and water, we used muscle. So we used animal muscle, we used human muscle. We didn't have machines at this point. So these were our main sources of power at this point: wind and water, animal and human. Now, all of these things, all of these advances, all of these uses have continued to increase our population. And what we have done at this point is we've had a great increase as far as science and technology is concerned. And you guys are probably very aware of this point, the technology that impacts our day-to-day lives and just how much we rely on it. But in the very early advances as far as science and technology are concerned, let's go back and let's talk about that power again. So what we did as early humans, as early civilizations developed, we were able to harness this power and store it and able to transport it from different areas instead of it being located at a central point as far as where wind was available or where water was available. We were able to transport this power to different places. So we've harnessed power, and then we also had medical discoveries, medical breakthroughs that also continue to allow the human population to further increase. So our human population has continued to just boom and grow and grow. That leads us to our next lesson, and let's just pull up the objectives for that. As far as human population is concerned. All right, so our objectives discuss the issue of population and its relationship to natural resources. So our population is huge at this point. It's really boomed. And now we need to talk about the adverse effects that we have from human population. So we've done all of these things as far as allowing the population to increase, but as the population has increased, we have things like overconsumption, which is the use of resources, the use of more resources than can be replenished. Okay, so the use of more resources than can be replenished. So we're using things faster than they can regrow or they can be reproduced. We also have reached what's called carrying capacity. So as far as our resources are concerned, we are at a threshold, we're at a point where we're using all of our resources and our resources are allowing us to continue to thrive and survive, but as far as our population is concerned, our population is no longer booming. It's no longer doubling in size. It's kind of at a plateau, so it's at a standstill because we've reached our carrying capacity. All right, so with these two things in mind, overconsumption and carrying capacity, we need to think about the, like I previously said, the adverse effects. Oops. So humans, of course, have used all of these resources. We've used our wood, we've used our fresh water, we've cut down fields, we've used them for farming, we've put down fertilizer, we've put down pesticides. All of this has adverse effects, okay? So we've taken down forest and replaced with cities, such as urban cities, with housing and asphalt. All right, and we've diminished or cut down on the forest that once was available. So this cuts down on the wildlife that was there, all of the resources that were there, all of the wood, all of the plants. It's cut down on all of those things. So humans, because we can now, thanks to science and technology, because we can now live in nearly every climate, so we're advancing in every climate. We're going through and we're creating these cities, we're creating these places where we live and thrive. We are impacting all species because we can now live in just about every climate thanks to these improvements as far as science and technology. So science and technology have allowed humans to live in nearly every climate, impacting all other species. All right, so everything that we're doing at this point is impacting every other species. We're impacting our environment, we're impacting our atmosphere, we're impacting the wildlife, we're impacting ourselves as well. We're beginning to create diseases, we're beginning to have overconsumption, so we don't have those natural raw resources anymore, and we're beginning to have a shortage as far as food is concerned because we've built these cities. So all of those are adverse effects. So this is my closing statement for today. I just wanted to go ahead and pull those two lessons together because I felt like they go hand in hand. Be sure that you are taking notes as you're going through today. Mr. Wilson will check for those, and I will speak with you guys again on Wednesday. If you have any questions before then, don't hesitate to reach out. Bye, guys.